Blizzards are expected across Syria as tangible drop in temperatures is observed. Lavrov and Zarif say the solution in Syria is political and can be achieved through the international conference in Geneva. The Syrian Arab army realizes more achievements in al-Nabak and eliminates terrorists in Aleppo. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our news for today. Syria is currently exposed to a strong blizzard as snow is expected in various parts of the country amidst a clear drop in temperatures.
The Syrian Meteorology Department has said that Syria is currently under the influence of low temperatures expected to cover large areas of the country. The water level is therefore expected to rise in most of the provinces. The blizzard has started with snowfalls in the northern areas, particularly in Aleppo, Idlib, Homs and Hama, and is expected to reach the inner and coastal parts of the country in the coming few hours. Snowfalls will be monitored in areas more than 1,000 meters above sea level. As the public is getting prepared for the storm, the government has made the necessary arrangements and taken the required measures to meet the citizens' basic needs, particularly of bread and fuel. Services departments in various governors are on the alert to deal with any emergency cases that may ensue from the present climatic circumstances.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said a military solution to the crisis in Syria will be to no avail, reiterating the call for halting the violence and respecting Syrian territorial integrity. During a press conference with his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Jawad Zarif in Tehran, Lavrov said the solution in Syria will be reached through an international conference in Geneva, adding that Iran's presence is very important at the conference. Lavrov added that Geneva too should be supported by all countries, and if it was not held, it would be due to the failure of some states to abide by the rules of the world community. Zarif stressed that there is no military solution to the crisis in Syria, pointing out that a political diplomatic solution must be sought to be made by the Syrian people, who should be helped by all sides to get it achieved. Zarif added that Iran's relationship with Russia has been based on cooperation to safeguard world peace. Russia has expressed strong rejection of any initiatives on Syria that do not coordinate with it at the Security Council. The Russian stand has been declared by the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Gennady Gatilov, who voiced conviction that the humanitarian issue in Syria cannot be solved except through a political solution and the convention of the Geneva II International Conference. Gatilov added that Moscow intended to offer humanitarian assistance to all the people of Syria. In the Vatican, head of the Clerical Council, Cardinal Robert Sarah, expressed hope that the International Conference on Syria reach positive results which can preserve Syria's sovereignty. Cardinal Sarah said in statements that the Church has high aspirations for the International Conference on Syria, which should bring peace and stability to the whole country. He called on all parties in Syria to stop violence and work for peace. In Damascus, units of the Syrian Arab Army eliminated an armed terrorist group east of Bustan al-Bashar in Barze neighborhood, killing dozens of gunmen, including their leader. In Damascus countryside, army units targeted terrorist groups in Rima farms west of Al-Nabak, destroying their weapons and ammunition. A terrorist leader named Iyad al-Khatib was killed. Meanwhile, life has started to go to normal in Al-Nabak after the Syrian Arab Army cleared the city of al-Nusra terrorist gangs who used civilians as human shields. A military source pointed out that the army chased terrorists in Arsal mountains and was able to clear Al-Nabak of all terrorists, in addition to capturing a big number of them and confiscating huge amounts of weapons. The TV correspondent reported that the wide areas stretching between Lebanese mountains and Syrian borders has imposed specific military tactic which allowed the army to target terrorist gatherings in the farms surrounding Al-Nabak, killing and wounding dozens of them. In Aleppo, units of the Syrian Arab Army foiled an infiltration attempt by an armed terrorist group from As-Suwaiqa into some safe areas in the city. Army units destroyed cars for terrorists on Aleppo-Damascus highway. The army also attacked terrorist groups in 12 different sites. Also in Aleppo, competent authorities conducted a qualitative operation in Bustan al-Qasr, during which they killed 3 terrorists and confiscated their weapons. A military source said that the operation came as a response to targeting Al-Jamiliya area with mortar shells and the so-called Jahannam mortars over the last couple of days. The authorities were able to identify the area from which the terrorists fire their mortar shells, relying on local intelligence. In Idlib, a military source said that units of the Syrian armed forces targeted terrorist gatherings near Al-Arba'in mountain. The BBC has revealed another evidence of the involvement of Turkey in facilitating the entry of the so-called foreign jihadists to fight in Syria.
The BBC has revealed another evidence of the involvement of Turkey in facilitating the entry of the so-called foreign jihadists to fight in Syria. In an interview with a 25-year-old student from France who traveled to fight in Syria as part of the so-called Brigade of Foreign Jihadists, the BBC reporter Richard Galpin met the French terrorist in southern Turkey and began by asking how he had managed to link up with the so-called Foreign Jihadist Brigade after crossing the Turkish border into Syria.
I was working for a small NGO on the border, building up relationships. After crossing inside Syria, I was at a friend's house and a neighbor invited me to stay for dinner. It was me, a few Russians, some Chechens, a few Saudis, people from all over. So many nations sitting at the same table, eating the exact same food.
The foreign terrorist said in the same interview that
getting rid of the regime is the goal. The final result will be an Islamic state, because we believe Sharia, or Islamic law, includes everything. We are all Al-Qaeda in the sense of ideology and mindset.
He added that he has now left the brigade because it recently pledged full allegiance to an organization called the Islamic State of Iraq and the Sham, a group linked to Al-Qaeda. There has been continuous foreign involvement in political, military and operational support to terrorists in Syria.
There are thousands of us, literally from every corner of the earth, and a lot from Europe. Europeans are the third largest group after the Saudis and Chechens.
On the 4th of December, EU counter-terrorism coordinator Jill Kerchov revealed that there are 1,700 fighters from 28 EU member states currently fighting in Syria.
Iraqi border guards have been able to repel a new terrorist attack from inside Syrian territories launched by terrorist groups who were driving 11 SUVs that had tried to infiltrate into Iraqi territories in Al-Anbar governorate, forcing them to flee into Syrian lands, leaving behind 2 burnt tanks. The Iraqi forces have also been able to capture a gang of weapons smugglers comprising 14 people from Al-Qa'im province and 25 terrorists from Daesh in Babil. Welcome back. Syrian director Najdat Anzour announced that his new film, The King of Sand, will be presented in Damascus movie theaters starting Thursday. Anzour, in his new film, talks about the foundation of Saudi Arabia, focusing especially on the role of its founder, King Abdulaziz Al Saud, in the light of what's happening in the Arab world, especially in Syria, exposing the roots of Wahhabi terrorism supported by the current rulers of Saudi Kingdom. Finally, Ma'loula is one of the Qalamun towns. Its name is in Syriac language means the high place, known for fresh air and wonderful landscape.
Ma'loula used to be under the rule of Homs kingdom during the time of the Roman Empire. During the Byzantine era, the city played an important religious role by becoming a bishop center between the 4th and 17th centuries AD. Ma'loula is home to the Saint Takla monastery that is considered the first monk monastery in the Middle East. It was built in the 4th century. The shrine of Saint Takla and her tomb are located in a cave situated in the center of the East Mountain. There is also a long valley flanked by huge seasonal cycle. It became a place where people come for blessings and offerings. It is worth mentioning that Ma'loula has become a home to many Christian ruins and temples.
In English, SyriaOnline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Vani Gunjan, but after a short break.
Good afternoon. The Syrian Trust for Development launched a new project called Senad to employ the Syrian youth. Our colleague Dana Al-Imam has some more about this in the following.
Because Syria cares about her children, a lot of hopes will become true to all youth. This activity is held depending on an invitation for national institutions that so convinced with the local experiences that the Syrian youth can give. In addition to communicate with any person looking for a job that related to certain experiences or certifications, he can find his needs in such activity. And it's very necessary in this time, because as we all know that we are in a tough economical condition and the opportunity to find a job is getting very hard. So such activity can be the link between the students or the graduated students and the companies.
نحن فريق سند فريق تنموي متطوع بيعمل تحت مظلة الأمانة السورية للتنمية.
We are Senad Group. We are a development volunteer team working under the supervision of Syrian Trust. We made this event to meet the needs of the youth, and nowadays every student comes here must find a job, workshop or a development administrative training course to attend. And in addition, there is volunteer team that gives experiences to the youth, and this is the kind of experiences that we miss nowadays. After finishing his academical study, the practical reality shocks him. So in this case, the experiences that we afford helps him. Through the huge efforts that Syrians are spending in the economic plans and projects that give the best chances for a great future that waits the Syrian youth to keep Syria flourished with their hard works and colorful soul. Dan Al-Imam for the Syrian National TV in English.
The General Establishment of Foreign Trade set the conditions to sign a contract for supplying foodstuff according to the credit line agreement with Iran, asserting that the contract aims at supplying the materials according to the quantities that are approved by the credit line agreement. The The director of the cables company asserted that the prices of the company's products declined by 3 times in parallel with the reduction of the dollar exchange rate against the Syrian pound. The director also pointed to the obstacles that face the company's work as a result of the economic sanctions imposed on Syria, noting that the company has produced about 4,221 tons of various kinds of electrical wires and cables. The manager of the consumption establishments branch in Damascus countryside affirmed that 13 new centers have been opened in the safe areas, as the total sales value has exceeded 2 billion Syrian pounds since the beginning of the year until November. He also asserted that the branch started distributing about 5,000 gas cylinders per day to the citizens in Damascus countryside. U.S. crude oil traded near the highest price since October, after industry data showed that the crude inventories declined for a second week in the U.S. Brent for January settlement was down by 11 cents to reach $109 a barrel. European stocks were little changed after yesterday's decline, as investors weighed the outlook for monetary stimulus after U.S. lawmakers agreed on a budget deal. Japanese stocks, on the other hand, fell, with the Topix index snapping a 3-day advance. Gold fluctuated near a 3-week high after advancing the most in 7 weeks, and signs of increased physical demand in China boosted the metals outlook. Gold for February delivery was at $1,260 an ounce. Asian stocks fueled demand for the currency as a haven, and amid speculation that its decline has been too rapid, Japan's currency was set for its biggest advance in 3 weeks against the euro. With this, we conclude our news. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.